All right, so good morning. I'm Erin Jordan. I'm a reporter with the Gazette, and I have the pleasure today of interviewing Kim Becicka. She's recently retired as the Vice President for Continuing Education and Training Services at Kirkwood Community College. Am I right that it's already, the transition has happened already?
Tomorrow's my last day.
Tomorrow's your last day.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I know this has got to be a busy time. Thanks for making time.
Absolutely.
So, Kim is the recipient of the 2021 Gazette Business Awards Trailblazer Award. She's being recognized for her role as a leader and a mentor for more than 30 years at Kirkwood. Nowadays people often don't stay at jobs for that long, and you lose a lot of that institutional knowledge. And I just think it's such a benefit to Kirkwood and other organizations for people to stay and continuing benefiting their organization. So thanks for that too.
You bet. Yeah, you're right. Nowadays, you don't necessarily see that number of years. There's much more movement in the job market.
Yeah. And so when you started at Kirkwood, what were you doing then?
So actually, I started at Kirkwood as a student. And so after I finished my one-year diploma at Kirkwood, I accepted a position as the department secretary for the then continuing education division. Back in the day, so to speak. I won't date myself, but that was the first position at Kirkwood I accepted.
And as you kind of rose up through administration there, you probably had some good mentors along the way?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Both what I would call more formal, yet a ton of informal mentoring relationships.
Is there anyone you would call out?
Oh, yeah. So I have certainly had several. So probably my first profound, I would say, experience as I was continuing to garner more skills and responsibilities was with Kim Lehrman when we were with the Iowa Procurement Center. And I would say it was really through Kim that I really gained much more confidence in myself as a manager or leader, but also my communication and just my thought process and planning skills. So that was just really impactful to start me dreaming, I guess I would say, about other possibilities for me moving forward. And then also Lon Olenzak was my boss in the early 90s. And he actually moved me into administration. So he really was the first boss that moved me forward. So I very much appreciate that. And he just gave really sage advice on management. And I've really carried a couple of the statements he made to me forward. And I thought about them often throughout my career.
Do you have one? Do you have a statement of wisdom that you could share with us?
Well, so one of them was in management and leadership, you will come in contact with people that you may never be able to gain their support. And your role then is to figure out how to work with them, but not let it mire you down, because there simply will be individuals that you can't gain their support. They won't be what he would say a Kim supporter necessarily.
Yeah, I think that's good wisdom for, life in general too. It's kind of like you can please some of the people all the time, but never all the,
Right.
But you got to keep working within the culture that you're in.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So as VP for Continuing Education and Training Services, I know you have been key in helping Kirkwood support the educational needs of the workforce in the state. I wanted to see if you could tell us a little bit about how that involves working with companies within the corridor and beyond.
Sure, you bet. So it's very important to Kirkwood Community College, both in continuing education, but as well in our academic programs, that we ensure we understand the workforce needs of the region. And the best way to understand those needs is working directly with employers. There certainly is a lot of data that we utilize from different types of economic modeling companies per se, but our best data is the boots on the ground data that we receive. So it's very important as an institution that we engage in communication with our employers, but more importantly, develop partnerships. And that is just going to become even more important into the future due to the workforce situation, which is going to be around for a while. For employers and the college to engage now, maybe in different ways, to provide education and training to individuals to pipeline into their companies.
Now, I know sector partnerships have been a way, a newer way maybe to address some of these challenges. I wondered if you could describe one of these partnerships that's been successful.
Right. So Kirkwood's entree into industry sector boards really started with the advanced manufacturing industry. And this is a concept nationally that's known for a best practice to really assist an industry segment work together on scalable solutions for all employers in the sector. And so we started with the advanced manufacturing sector, and one of their first projects was just to identify the career pathways within the industry. And then that helped us, as well as other organizations, to help build awareness around those careers and the skills and abilities necessary to move up that ladder, right? Yeah. And now, as we move forward to today, the Advanced Manufacturing Sector Board is very involved in education and awareness for our youth. To get to them early, to see if that early interest might be able to stay throughout their high school and college careers, to envision a career in manufacturing. And then so they do a lot around education and awareness currently.
You know, you mentioned the high school part of it. I think about how many students I've heard about graduating from high school with so much college credit, you know, even like a semester to a year of college credit from classes they're taking at community colleges like Kirkwood. How has that grown during your time at Kirkwood?
So that has skyrocketed for us at Kirkwood. And the academic affairs, career academy programs just are high quality. It does, as you said, really provide a student some credits under their belt before they graduate, so it saves money. But also we believe it helps them test their areas of interest. So they may start in the healthcare pathway and then determine, that's not for me, and then start their career research again to see where they want to head. We've worked really hard at Kirkwood to ensure those academies pathway into academic programs, which is also a plus. So I always say no loss point for the student, whether they're in a non-credit certificate in the division I have, or a dual enrollment academy, or our credit classes. Everything should be able to integrate and come together along the pathway, so you don't have to redo stuff.
Yeah, that matters so much now, because higher education is pretty expensive, especially when you get to, you know, a traditional 4-year school or, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So Jasmine Almoyed is succeeding you at Kirkwood, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Correct. And yes. So I'm guessing you've known her for some time, because she had worked at Kirkwood too, right? Before going to the city?
Yes. Yes, I have known Kirkwood. I have known Jasmine for many, many years.
Okay. So, how do you think she'll carry on the torch as in this position?
You know, she is going to do a fantastic. I have always planned on retiring early. I made that decision when my kids were born, because I made the decision to continue to work. And so I just said, hey, I am going to retire early, because I couldn't have raised mine without my village, right? So I can help you as you're building your career and a family at the same time. But also I looked at, you know, part of my retirement was I wanted to go out while I was still on top. And I felt like for the future, where we're at in education is really a pivotal point. And I think moving into the future, it's really that next generational thinking, in my opinion. And so it was also the right time, I felt, for the division too. And so with Jasmine coming on board, I think that she, A, brings incredible energy to the position, B, has a wealth of knowledge around workforce needs, albeit mostly from the city of Cedar Rapids, but she will have no problem coming up to speed regionally as well. And also she believes in employer partnerships and collaboration across the institution, and that's just so important. Throughout her career, she's always worked for win-win relationships and ensuring all parties can come together to figure out the solution. So that will provide her a solid foundation as she moves forward.
That's great. And I'm sure it's been important to her and others to have mentors like you, along the way, kind of sharing the wisdom you've learned. You said that after your retirement that you're going to be, it sounds like, helping your kids, with their childcare needs and getting to spend time with your grandkids. Is that right?
Right. That's right. Yep.
But I also know that it's sometimes can be hard for trailblazers to not kind of, keep blazing trails. So wondered if you had any other kind of little projects that you might want to mention.
Well, I currently serve on a board for a national workforce council. It's called the National Council for Workforce Education. So I'm going to continue on that board. And through that work, I also am affiliated with the National Skills Coalition, which is a national advocacy, federal legislation for workforce association. And so through that, I'll still be working on some projects. I've said I'm going to be pretty choosy, what I want to work on, but I'll be able to stay engaged longer with that association. So I'm excited about that. And then I'm going to be doing some volunteering, but not in my current capacity. I hope to volunteer at my mom's assisted living facility. So that will be really different for me to do that. And then I'm thinking, I haven't made any other commitments yet, but something in the community with tutoring or working with individuals that might need some mentorship to determine their higher ed path, something like that.
Oh, that would be so valuable. I just, having kids myself, there's a lot of uncertainty, especially among, families maybe where their parents haven't gone to college or something like that.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great. Go ahead. Were you going to say something else?
Well, and then I just think too, I think back to, when I was a new student, and it was hard. I almost dropped out because I was like, oh my gosh, I miss my home and this isn't for me. And it was very different back in the time I went. There wasn't much student life during that time. So I also think it's important, particularly for new students, that they can find an individual who can just be a sounding board for them to reassure, right? Like, no, what you're experiencing is normal. And here's some coping skills or strategies to help you through that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's tremendous. I just want to thank you so much, Kim, for your work in this community for 30 years. And I congratulations on completing this step and moving on to some other great stuff.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Yes, very appreciative of my career. I feel extremely fortunate to have come across so many different people, not only at the college, but in the community that I have just continued to learn from. And I always say those experiences have not only made me a better professional, but a better person.
That's great. Thanks again.
You